Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. 107.5 FM, 580 AM, joined by Michael Warren Davis. Talk about what's going on in the Catholic Church. Mr. Davis, good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Not bad. So when we take a look at the Catholic Church, you've been an expert on it for quite some time. For folks that aren't familiar with your work, can you share that with us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I'm the U.S. editor of the Catholic Herald. The Catholic Herald's story is actually more impressive than mine. But so we were founded in London 130 years ago. Britain's oldest and most esteemed Catholic publication. And we just launched our U.S. edition about a month ago. So I control the editorial operations over here.
Based on your coverage of the church, what is the status right now of the Catholic Church?
Well, it's seen worse days. That's not very encouraging. We only have anecdotal evidence about how the laity is responding to the crisis, but very probably there have been a few, like Damon Linker at the Week and a few, USA Today columnists. They've very loudly said that they're leaving the Catholic Church over the McCarrick scandal. But more concerning are, the little guys in the pews who don't have a newspaper or a magazine column, who can't announce that they're leaving the Catholic Church. And so they just don't set their alarm clock on Saturday night, and they don't show up. These numbers are going to take a long time to come in. Pew Research is going to have to track this trend over the next decade. But in the meantime, the Catholic Church itself is going to know that there's a change because their coffers are going to run dry. The Catholic Church is a very expensive organization to run. Anecdotally, again, Catholics give about $10 a week on average. That's hundreds of millions of dollars a week, and I think that the church just it doesn't have a lot of extra money laying around. It actually doesn't. It's a huge organization, and so they're going to feel the squeeze pretty soon.
Well, let's talk about this on KIDO Talk Radio. Why is what's happening with these sexual assaults, the allegations, the alleged cover-ups? Why is this story so important to people that aren't Catholics?
Well, the Catholic Church is the oldest continuously existing institution in the Western world, and it's also probably the most influential institution anywhere that's ever existed. Whichever direction you lean in politically, at the very least, the Catholic Church is important, if only because its theologians and defined what we consider traditional Christian morality, and set for throughout the Protestant Reformation, the French Revolution, the Catholic Church has been sort of the acknowledged standard of traditional morals, traditional concept of social order, and so if that institution, if those values flounder at the root level, that is going to affect everyone. Even if you think it's all bunk, if you're a raving anti-Catholic Protestant, if the Catholic Church, if it collapses, it won't. I mean, as a believing Catholic, I don't think it will ever collapse. But if it collapsed, if its teachings change, you'd feel those ripples through, not only through all of Christian religion, all of Western religion, but through Western politics as well. Absolutely. Look at how many Catholics are overrepresented in government, on the Supreme Court, in the media, especially on the conservative side of things. When you think about how extraordinary it was that National Review, the sort of the standard bearer of American conservatism, anecdotally was called a Catholic magazine. William F. Buckley was Catholic, Frank S. Mayer was Catholic, Russell Kirk was Catholic. The right in America intellectually has always been dominated by Catholics, and so that's a huge part of the American conservative movement's identity.
Michael Warren Davis with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. So, some of the headlines we have: Vatican #3 convicted for abusing choir boys, highest-ranking church official to face charges, and like you, as a practicing and proud Catholic, the betrayal hurts so much. So we go to the Pope, the Vatican. Who's to blame for this, and why do these cover-ups continue? And we can't seem to get this problem out of the church.
Well, that depends on who you ask. If you ask the Pope, who I love and revere, he says that we're all culpable. This is this is the sins. These are the sins of the church, and these sort of stain the church collectively. And then if you're like me, you say, absolutely not. This is not my fault. I didn't do this. I had no hand in this. This is the Cardinal McCarrick, no longer Cardinal McCarrick, Archbishop McCarrick. He's the product of a corrupt seminary culture, and he was sheltered by a corrupt institutional church. There's no bones about it. The Pope is the head of that organization. And he can't pass. Again, I love him, but he can't pass the buck. That's completely immoral. It's not. I don't believe it's. I think the huge majority of bishops are horrified by these revelations, and I think most of them are always caught a little bit off guard because I don't know who. The big question for a while was, how did you not hear the rumors about Cardinal McCarrick? But I don't know. I don't think the majority of bishops are in any way actively complicit in this. I think that there is a network of seedy, corrupt, power-hungry bishops, and also just some plain old licentious, immoral, bad bishops.
Well, and it goes back to somewhat of an old boys club, it would appear. And again, Mr. Davis, you know more about this from the Catholic Herald, so let me just jump in for people that may not be familiar with it. You have the latest allegations. You've got McCarrick, who was put under some type of house arrest under Pope Benedict. When Pope Francis came in, magically those were removed. And then you have good bishops like an old friend of mine, Bishop Zubik in Pittsburgh, being under fire as well. And when these abuse victims come forward, based on the documents that are released, you get people saying, okay, take your money and never speak of this again. And that is not the heart of Christ in dealing with these victims.
No, absolutely not. I think we've always seen some form of this play out in the Catholic Church for its whole history. History buffs will remember Cardinal Wolsey, the Chancellor of England under Henry VIII, right before the Reformation hit England. And he was sort of the archetypical bad bishop. He didn't evince a lot of Catholic faith. He had a mistress. He built castles for himself. He was just, it was just the church was an easy way for an ordinary person to rise through the ranks of power, and that's still more or less true. A poor Irish boy from Boston can join the priesthood if he's smart, clever, knows how to network, charming. He can become, the Secretary of State of Vatican City. There is still that allure of power and ceremony, and the church doesn't do enough to weed those people out. So those priests and bishops, they do not manifest Christ to the laity. They're there to manifest power to everyone who will bend their knee to them. And that's something that we don't screen for in the seminaries.
And that's a great point. We've been advocating this for years on this radio station, others where I've been, because there is an element that needs to be uprooted from the church. Going back to the majority of our audience, which is non-Catholic, though, it breaks my heart when people say, well, I used to be Catholic, and, they make jokes about priests and little boys. And then, Mr. Davis, you have the beauty of parochial education, whether it's RCIA, whether it's Sunday school, whether it's Catholic schools, whether it's continuing education. So we have two extremes here of the most, the oldest and most dominant faith in Western civilization.
Right. Yeah. It's at some level, it's equal part. The priests and little boys joke. It's equal parts just inappropriate, just sort of vulgar, and trivializing. I think also. On the one hand, it doesn't show any respect for the good priests and Catholics who don't deserve to be treated that way. And then on the other hand, it's not a laughing matter at all. It's not something that's funny that should be the butt of a joke. But but I think that shows how deeply, if someone can be that hurt, if you yourself are not the victim of sexual abuse as a Catholic, if no one in your family is a victim of sexual abuse, but the knowledge that the church, the members of the church, men of the cloth, are capable of committing those heinous acts, if that shakes your faith enough to leave the Catholic Church, then that shows that the Catholic Church demands some affection and some loyalty from you in the first place. And it shows that you have extraordinarily high standards that you set for Catholic priests. In a way that, for instance, if there's a higher rate of sexual abuse in the public school system than there is in the Catholic Church, but no one says, I'm no longer paying taxes because, I refuse to be complicit. We sort of assume that that scummy people are going to be in government jobs and in the private sector, but for some reason it hits people. People don't really seem to believe that the Catholic Church is just another institution, even if they say that. They hold it to a higher standard, which is in a way encouraging. We have to rise up to meet that standard. And you're right, that standard is built on the majesty of church architecture and the church's history of the patronage of the arts and our great, extraordinary poets, theologians, philosophers, are the very high standards that we've set for education. The Catholic Church invented the university, of all things. And so, again, it's people's standards are correctly very high. They expect priests to behave better than ordinary men. God help anyone whose faith is shaken when they don't meet those standards. We have to pray diligently that they come back to the church. But at the same time, there is a little hope. There is a little bit of hope there because they expect miracles from the Catholic Church, and that's exactly what the Catholic Church will give them.
Mr. Davis, if people want to read your work, what can they do, sir?
Well, the easiest way is to go on CatholicHerald.co.uk. Under the masthead, my email is listed there. And again, I love feedback, hate mail, anything that your listeners want to send me. Very happy to hear from them always.
Thank you. We'd love to have you back. Merry Christmas,
Absolutely.
by the way.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
There we have it. By the way, that guy's only 24 years old. Amazing. Amazing when we're talking about what's at stake. It's what Bill O'Reilly said to us yesterday. And if you missed our exclusive interview with Bill O'Reilly, you can always go to KIDOTalkRadio.com, click on the podcast. It was in the 7 a.m. hour. There's evil in the world. There's evil in the world. Now, you won't hear that from the devious little libs because they want to wash away the evil. They want to make it all back to moral relativism. Well, your evil is my good. Tell that to a victim of crime. Right? But there is evil in the world, and good people must stand and must fight against it. That's what we'll discuss next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
To meet the needs of the American people. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House, the Trump shutdown. You have the White House. You have the Senate. You have the House of Representatives. You have the votes. You should pass it.
No, we don't have the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House,
and we don't have.
You could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but I can't. Excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we can get passed very easily,
okay,
and we do.
But
the problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and
that's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
point, Mr. President. The point is that there are equities to be weighed. And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. But the fact is, the House Republicans could bring up this bill, if they had the votes, immediately and set the tone for what you want.
If we thought we were going to get it passed in the Senate, Nancy, we would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House.
No, that's
we
not-
would get it, Nancy, I'd have it passed in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter, though, because we can't get it passed in the Senate because we need 10 Democrat votes.
Well,
That's the problem.
again, let us have our conversation, then
That's
we can
right.
meet with the press again. But the fact is that legislating, and which is what we do,
Right.
you begin, you make your point, you state your case. That's what the House Republicans could do if they had the votes. But there are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
Exactly right. You don't have
If I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one session.
Well, then
it would
go
be
do it.
done.
Go do it.
It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in
No,
the
don't
Senate.
put it on the Senate. Put it on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans.
You will not win.
It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote
Don't put
of
it
the
on
Senate. I need 10 senators. That's
Mr.
the problem.
President, you have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the
you
White House. The White House is done, and the House would give me the vote if I wanted it. But I can't because
Well,
I
you
need,
can't.
Nancy, I need 10 votes from Chuck.
All right, let me say something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact
Well, she said enough. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So that was the big explosive meeting yesterday. And the president saying, look, we're calling people out. Let's make this happen. And the wall is very important, crucially important. Yet you have the devious little libs led by Nancy Pelosi just sitting back here and refusing to go along with it, talking about a shutdown. Now, what's even more concerning is you have people salivating to impeach the president. They're not even in power in the House, and they want to impeach the president. How is this constructive bipartisan government?
Why can't we get the Senate to put the bipartisan bill on the floor that protects Mr. Mueller as he continues his investigation? That would truly give a sign of putting country over party.
Congresswoman, are Democrats putting country first by not pursuing impeachment?
That's right. Are the Democrats, they're not even in yet. And they can't help it because President Trump has beaten them at their own game. Traffic and weather together. And to your phone calls, we go to Max. Max, where are you calling from?
Good morning. I'm calling from Kensington, Victoria, Australia. It's a suburb of Melbourne.
My man.
I'll tell you what I did. I took a lot of naps between signings. I slept a lot so I could be up and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 2:27 in the morning.
You're calling in at 2:27 in the morning in Idaho from Australia.
Yes.
Well, the floor is
Talking to
yours.
my
Go
buddy
ahead. Well, thank you. The floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
No, I just wanted to, I noticed something here that really has taken me aback. I was in downtown Melbourne. This is a small city, right? 6 million people, a booming metropolis, every race you can imagine just milling around, streets like New York City. And right smack in the middle of the city, in Federation Square, is a huge nativity scene surrounded by all the trappings of a real Christian Christmas. And this is all put up at expense. Government workers, government supply. And nobody raises an eyebrow because they're all too busy enjoying it and wishing each other Merry Christmas. I've talked to Muslims. I've talked to Hindus. Every religion you can imagine, and some you can't. And they're all wishing each other Merry Christmas simply because it's shown to be, they say it's to show respect to the majority, which is Christianity. What are we missing in America that Australia is kicking us around with real Christianity, public view, and none of this church and state crying?
Well, we miss you, Max.
Well, I miss you too. I'll be gone a couple more weeks, but I'll drop in from time to time. And a quick comment on your previous guest. we call what the Catholic Church has is a crisis of leadership. That's what it amounts to. It's a crisis of leadership. Good leadership would take care of it. And that means a different pope. I didn't want to get into this guy. He's a Jesuit, for Pete's sake. But the Catholic Church members need to remember that 1 or 200 bad apples don't ruin the orchard. Catholic Church is a great group, good guys, working for the same thing as pretty much all Christians. And people who crack those little jokes, well, there have always been idiots with bad taste. They're going to be there. You've got to suffer them until they suffer, and they'll do it to themselves. That's all I had to say, besides the fact that, Liberal Steve, if you can hear me, Merry Christmas, mate, from the land down under, where the women glow and the men thunder. Melbourne, Australia.
God bless, Max. See you soon.
Too. All right, buddy. Sure. You take care. God bless.
God bless. How about that? Our friend Max calling in from Australia. Your call's next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
I thought it was a very good meeting. When the press left, we had a fairly long meeting, and we really discussed a lot of great subjects.
If President Trump wants to throw a temper tantrum ahead of the holidays and cause a Trump shutdown, it'll be solely on his back. We hope he chooses one of the two reasonable options we gave him, and that the country can avoid a Trump shutdown.
You want to talk about shutting down the government. You want to talk about blocking border security. I'm going to bring you into the White House and lay out exactly why we need to secure the border. And frankly, President Trump laid out a lot of real important specific.
There we have it. The showdown fallout continues. John Decker joining us from the White House, exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio from Fox News Radio. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Not bad. Have you ever seen anything like what we saw yesterday?
No. The answer is no. It was better than anything on reality television that I've ever seen. It was remarkable. We often say, boy, if I could be a fly on the wall. Well, we all were flies on the wall yesterday, in the sense that the president essentially had the meeting that he was going to have with Schumer and Pelosi in front of the cameras. He didn't wait until they were behind closed doors. In fact, when the president asked the press pool that was in the Oval Office to leave the Oval Office, the president, Schumer, and Pelosi only met for an additional 20 minutes. They pretty much said all they had to say to each other while the cameras were rolling.
The president seemed very comfortable in that environment, much more than Senator Schumer or Representative Pelosi. Do you agree with that, or?
Well, I think that's right. The president, sort of grew up, if you will, in reality television. That's how he became so well known, I think, across America over the course of the past 10, 15 years. And so he's very comfortable with that type of format. Whereas, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they typically have their meetings behind closed doors. So they weren't used to that. And I think that all three of them responded accordingly. No one was a shrinking violet. Everyone went toe-to-toe with each other.
Right, which may not be a bad thing.
I think that yes and no. I think when you have both sides, sort of digging in their heels, it means that you're unlikely to get any kind of compromise. And that means that we're likely to see a government shutdown in a week and a half or so. December the 21st is the deadline, midnight December the 21st, because neither side wants to give an inch. Democrats don't want to give the president any money for that border wall with Mexico, and the president's threatening to close down the government if he doesn't get that money.
John Decker joining us from Fox News Radio here on KIDO Talk Radio. So we take a look at the Flynn sentencing versus the Cohen sentencing recommendations, a tale of two worlds, if you will.
Well, that's right. So Flynn is an individual who the special counsel, Robert Mueller, says cooperated extensively with the special counsel's office, and as a result, the special counsel is recommending no prison time for the former national security advisor to President Trump. Not the case for Michael Cohen, the president's former personal attorney. You have the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York actually suggesting substantial prison time for Mr. Cohen. You have the U.S. the special counsel saying that he did cooperate. And I think what's going to happen at the end of the day is that the federal judge that will ultimately be sentencing Michael Cohen will split the difference. And it may not be the 5 years or so that the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York would like to see, but it's not going to be nothing. He's going to spend, some significant amount of time behind prison.
John Decker, to be continued. We'll see what happens with that government shutdown, but you won't be shutting down.
No, I won't be. We never do here at Fox. We keep it going, and we'll obviously be following what happens over the course of the next week and a half leading up to that deadline of the government running out of money, which happens on December the 21st.
John Decker, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day.
You
Talk
too.
to you real soon.
All right. Bye-bye, our great friend John Decker. So, yesterday during the Google hearings, we had a congressman ask the folks in Google this pertinent question. Let's take a listen.
If you Google the word idiot under images, a picture of Donald Trump comes up. I just did that. How would that happen? How does search work so that that would occur?
We provide search today for any time you type in a keyword. We, as Google, we've gone out and crawled and stored copies of billions of web pages in our index, and we take the keyword and match it against web pages and rank them based on over 200 signals, things like relevance, freshness, popularity. Bias.
Again, a report coming out today, more people getting their news from social media than newspapers. Let's face it, some newspapers not the most objective, but clearly there is a lack of objectivity in all social media platforms. Let's hear what you have to say. Holly in Caldwell with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning, Kevin. I think today's been a great show. I think it's been well established that we do have evil in our world, and there's some terrible things going on with Google and trying to brainwash people who are not informed and don't know where to become informed. So I just wanted to talk about a couple things that people can do to become informed. The first one is they need to buy Chris Ann Hall's book, Sovereign Duty, and read it and get all their state legislators to read it, because by the Constitution, we can limit the federal government through our state legislatures. And the second thing is there's a meeting at the Meridian City Hall on Thursday night at 7, and the most well-read man in Idaho, Tom Munns, will be coordinating that meeting.
We covered that last hour.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Is it at 7 o'clock at Meridian City Hall?
I believe it's 7:30, but I'd show up at 7. And wait a minute, wait a minute, you're promoting it, and you're asking me to tell you the time.
Well, I'm a busy girl, and I multitask a lot, Kevin.
But
you're the
here it is. And right back at me. It's at 7 o'clock.
If you get there at 7, you'll be there on time.
Right. I get there. I get there a little early, and it's all about conspiracies.
It's basically it's addressing what some of those things are and what good people can do to become informed. Another concern I have is, I'm strongly against the Convention of States, and if you go on their website and you put in information, it immediately sends an email to legislators like they support that without even being able to see what they're even all about. So I just ask, a lot of the legislators are aware of that, but I ask people to let their legislators in Idaho know that a Convention of States is an awful idea right now.
Anything else you'd like to cover?
Well, what do you think about all that, Kevin? We haven't really been
Oh my gosh, you're throwing it out to me. I'm all about getting rid of the censorship of Google and Facebook, and personally, Holly, I think that is our gravest threat. The press is our gravest threat to our republic.
You are exactly right, and then also the brainwashing in the schools. Yep. I even had an issue this week with my son coming home and addressing the climate change religion and all the things to take away individual rights, and Google, that's a huge one. Obviously, I think that's an act of treason to be thinking they get to decide what people know and don't know about. And that's a violation of free press right there.
Well, Holly, you continue to hold us accountable, and Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Meridian City Hall, Conspiracies with our great friend Tom Munn is going to be a good one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Ben in Garden City with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Ben.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to say something about the what's going on with the Catholic Church, mainly just in general. In Idaho, we have a lot of people that are kind of they think for themselves. We don't necessarily just do what we're told by an organization such as the Catholic Church or whatever it is. We tend to think for ourselves. At least we like to think we do. But I think at this time when we try to remember Christ and his birth, we should take a look at the Bible and remember that, Christ, when he came, there was a time that the organization that was in power was the Sanhedrin. And Christ himself said they sit in Moses' seat. But he also said they seek to kill me. And so, you have an organization now, which is the Catholic Church, which is very large and very powerful and has been for many, many years. But that same organization did allow the Bible to be given to the people and translated, and it was people like Martin Luther that at the threat of his life had it translated into German, and I think it was Tinsdale that had it translated into English. And so people began to be able to read it for themselves. And I think we need to just remember that Christ set up his religion, his church, separate. And so, whether it's the Catholic Church or whatever organization, if they're teaching the truth, that's great. But it's not the organization themselves necessarily that is what we need to look up to.
Ben, we appreciate you listening. Hey, anytime, and we love talking about things that are on people's mind, but sometimes people don't articulate them, and we hope you call back again, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Tea Party Bob, our favorite Lutheran, joins us now on Religious Talk with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
Where did you get that from? You are a piece of work, I have to tell you.
Well, we try.
I'll tell you, I'm not for more government regulation, but Google and Facebook really need to be regulated. They just have way too much power in the social media circles. And as far as people getting their information from social media, I've seen a huge change over the last 2 months in our Facebook page. We've gotten to the point now where we're getting between 40 and 60,000 hits a week. That is extremely unusual. We've never seen that before. So I would say, yeah, that's pretty right on that people are getting more information there. I wanted to say a few things about the press conference yesterday with President Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and that smirking idiot Chuck Schumer. If people of this country didn't see the true nature of the Democrats yesterday, they're just plain ignorant. The president finally put all the cards on the table when it comes to the wall and did it openly for everyone to hear and see, showing the American people that the Democrats don't want a wall and they do want more illegals in this country to change the demographics so they can win this 2020 election. They don't want to hear those infamous words anymore. Nobody wants to remember the Nancy Pelosi who said, you have to pass the bill if you want to find out what's in it. We all know how well that worked out. We're at the tipping point here, Kevin, with between 11 and 22 million illegals residing in our country, and many of them voting in our elections. If we don't stem the tide now, we're going to regret it. And not supporting President Trump in this quest for the border wall is just plain dumb. One of your guests said it very well this morning, and that is if they get 75,000 more votes for the Democrats in Florida, they're going to take Florida, and that's going to put the real last nail in a coffin for the Republican Party for winning presidential elections.
Well, I think it comes down to the Republican Party, though. Are they willing to stand up to the DLL, the devious little libs? Is the Republican Party willing to be unpopular? Because they continue to try to play both sides of this. And really, this is the last stand. And the reason why the devious little libs are so upset, they thought it was in the bag. 8 years of Obama, 8 years of Clinton, and we're cooked. And they see Trump coming in, waking up the silent majority once again, all the conservatives coming home and shocking the libs, and they're fearful. Now, I don't know what's going to go on with Kavanaugh and Roberts. That is concerning. But on the other hand, it's better than another Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, look, I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. I think we all have to come to the conclusion that the Republicans talk out of both sides of their mouth, and they have been doing that for about the last 20 years. We haven't had what you would call a unified Republican Party since Ronald Reagan, and even then it was shattered in some places. I don't know whether they can come together. Either they're going to do that, or we're going to suffer the consequences. You know, we're at the tipping point here where if we lose this next election, we're going to be in deep doo-doo, buddy. And if the president doesn't get the support he needs, we're the ones who are going to suffer under the rule of the socialist Democrats. It's kind of like I always say, we get the government we deserve.
You know, I think, though, there is something that you won't hear anywhere else, and this is concerning, and maybe it's just liberal media propaganda, but the fact that you have Michelle Obama's book selling as the fastest book ever, now 3 million copies sold, that shows you there's a market for the libs. Hillary Clinton, her books were failures, but one can't argue, and again, massive promotions, embraced by the libs. But 3 million copies, that's a quite an accomplishment.
Well, look, I can't help it if we have 3 million more idiots out there. It's not my problem. It's our job to make sure that the Republicans get out and vote, and that we unify and get together on this next election.
Well, people call you out and say you need to unify. You need to be more of a Republican.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm a unified Republican when the Republicans are doing the right thing. When they talk out of both sides of their mouth, I don't know how we really can get together. You can't have people saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. You know, you take a look at somebody like Paul Ryan, who had all of the chances in the world to get this damn wall built a year ago. And what did he do? He delayed. He doesn't want it done. Those are the kind of people I can't stand, and I don't want to see, you know, running our government. We get them out. Yeah, I'm a unified guy. But, boy, we have a bunch of creeps running our government that we've allowed to get in there with their horse manure. They never tell the truth. They never give us the whole story. We elect them, and what happens? We're the ones that get screwed in the end. I'm just kind of tired of it. And it's no different here in the state than it is federally. I think you know that as well as I do.
Agreed. Tea Party Bob, GemStatePatriot.com. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We go to Mark in Eagle with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, sir. Well, John F. Kennedy would have been considered in this day and age more of a Republican than most of the Republicans that run the Senate, the House, whatever these days. So, or even like, Tea Party Bob said, even our own local government here in the state of Idaho. But I wanted to bring up two quick points. One of them was, would you imagine if there was an exorcist in that Oval Office in there? Actually spilled a little holy water on good old Pelosi and Schumer. I bet you would have seen them turn their heads and heave-ho in every direction. I just think those people, that's why I call them demon rats, because to me, the Democratic Party has gone so far in the hole negatively in what they've done to this country. I think the devil itself has possessed that party because they're not John F. Kennedy Democrats. Now, on another talk show, I won't mention which one, national show, this was absolutely brilliant, Kevin. Guy calls in and says, back in World War II, they used to call war bonds. You'd sell war bonds to raise money for the cause. We need to do something which is called wall bonds. Bring out wall bonds and sell those to the people across the country who want to buy them to help contribute to build the wall. I thought it was a fantastic idea, and this has already been passed on to Trump's people in the White House, apparently. What do you think on that, sir?
I think it's a brilliant idea, Mark, and thank you for bringing
Thank you.
to our attention. Take care. Quick on the trigger there. I blame you, Austin. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, back to this breaking story that we're getting more of our news from social media. So yesterday you had the big wig from Google up there trying to explain that when you Google the word idiot, President Trump's picture appears. Is that objective to you? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And we continue on. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, what President Trump should have done, he should have taken Ryan and McConnell into his office, had the media there, done the same thing to them, embarrassed them a long time ago. And that's really what needs to happen. He needs to have the House vote right now on the wall, make everybody accountable. And so that's all I got to say.
Boy, all right. Thank you, Pro-Life.
All right.
Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, Dave. And a preview of today's Miller Minute. You're going to love this one. According to our friends at the Wall Street Journal, China has agreed to reduce tariffs on American autos to 15%, down from 40% currently. Making America great again. Good day. God bless. Keep the faith.